All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Folks, we just got confirmation that they are, in fact, interested in trading for San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. According to Offshore Sportsbook Sports Betting AD, the Steelers are the favorites to land Ayuk should he leave San Francisco. Now, Brandon Ayuk is heading into the last year of his rookie contract and will play on a fifth-year option. But as we know, the San Francisco 49ers, they're in a cap crunch. They have all these heavy hitters littered all across the board. Eventually, you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. And with Brandon Ayuk needing an extension, this is important to keep in mind. So here's the quote we got from, I forget the guy's first name, but he's an NFL reporter. They would love to pursue Ayuk and have, but that doesn't mean the 49ers want to trade him. That's what they wanted to do. Find a big-time veteran wide receiver to pair with George Pickens. So I got to say real quick before we dive in, because we're going to talk about a couple of different wide receivers and we're going to talk about the draft for Pittsburgh, which is almost a week away. Guys, we're like 8 days away from the start of the NFL draft, where the Pittsburgh Steelers do have an abundance of higher up picks. You got 4 picks in the top 100. You got pick number 20, pick 51, and then 2 third-round draft picks. I know they need a center. I know they could use some tackle depth, but folks, we're going to go through a couple of scenarios on why I really think Omar Khan is going to trade for a wide receiver of some caliber, some wide receiver 2 caliber. But folks, before we get any further into today's video, if you enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We post a ton of Steelers videos on this channel. Steelers fans, seriously, I appreciate you guys so much. We are in the absolute dead of the offseason, and you guys are the only team that are really watching these. So if you could try and get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So here's the thing, man. You know, what Omar Khan is doing right now is unbelievably well. Like, you went out there after having Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett got drafted in the first round a couple of seasons ago. You had Mitch Trubisky as QB2 last season, and then Mason Rudolph ends up winning 3 straight, and you go into the playoffs. And obviously, Omar Khan saw the writing on the wall and was like, all right, look, if our starting quarterback, if our quote-unquote hopeful franchise QB was injured, gets injured at an unfortunate time when Matt Canada gets fired, he comes out here right after it against the Cincinnati Bengals and puts up a great game, and then unfortunately shortly after gets injured. When your third string QB wins 3 straight games to finish the season, and then you go into the wild card round of the playoffs and you're wondering who should the starting QB be, well, it's time for change. So he goes out there, picks up Russell Wilson, trades for Justin Fields. So now you do have the same quarterback competition that you wanted when speaking about the offseason and this upcoming QB room for 2024. Well, now you have that, but it's like triply upgraded with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. So what else did they go out and do? Well, they picked up a couple of nice wide receivers like Van Jefferson and Quez Watkins. But guys, in my opinion, I'm very hopeful. Like, George Pickens is that good. He's that good. And I'm hopeful for Calvin Austin. And I still think that one of these guys will make the roster, if not both of them, and Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson. I get it, man. Quez had a very good season before A.J. Brown came into town, but the last 3 years he's been on a complete downward trajectory. And it's the same exact thing with Van Jefferson. So, I'm hoping that a fresh breath of scenery helps out at least one of these guys, and they can come out here and make an impact on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. But at the end of the day, let's just hypothetically say neither of them pan out, right? Let's say both of them get cut and neither of them pan out. Well, how confident do you really feel surrounding either Russell Wilson, most likely Russell Wilson, but maybe Justin Fields, because it is going to be a quarterback camp, with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren in the running back room, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington at the tight end spot. But how confident do you really feel about George Pickens being wide receiver 1 and then wide receiver 2 being either Quez and Van if they make the roster, and or slash Calvin Austin. Well, for me personally, and I am a Green Bay Packers fan, so take it with a grain of salt, but I don't feel good about it in the slightest. All right, so they need to make some type of move, whether it's a trade for Brandon Ayuk. We're going to talk about Cortland Sutton in just a second, but even just picking up a guy, a more seasoned veteran like DJ Chark, who's had good seasons, who's had a good NFL, consistent NFL career when paired up with at least a competent QB. They need to make at least a move like that, as well as draft a wide receiver. So point is, I just don't feel good about Pittsburgh going into next year with George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and some rookie wide receiver that you're going to be taking most likely in the 3rd round. So here's where things get a little bit interesting. Benjamin Albright said this: last year when I reported that the Denver Broncos staff wasn't on high as on Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and was looking to move them, that was met with pushback everywhere. Then they tried to move Sutton to the Ravens before the season and did move Jeudy after the season for peanuts. Will Sutton be a Bronco this season? Folks, Cortland Sutton, the reason I'm mentioning this is because he's skipping out on practice while looking for a new contract, and a Broncos insider says that a trade could be coming. Now, as we know, he's a member of the Denver Broncos, right? So he's got a really good reputation, but he only has 1,000-yard season to his name. The reason I'm mentioning this is because the big rebuttal to trading for Brandon Ayuk is that you don't want to give up your 1st-round pick. Well, for me, what I would say to that is, what if every single tackle that you want at pick number 20 gets selected before your pick? Well, you still got a 2nd. You still have 2/3. You could use that 1st-round draft pick and then a draft pick of next year's draft or whatever to trade for Brandon Ayuk. So I'm just saying, there is a world, there is a possibility where the guys you want at the center position or the tackle position are already selected at pick 20, so you got to look elsewhere. Then you could potentially see a Brandon Ayuk trade on draft night. But just the point is, with Cortland Sutton, another one of these wide receiver number 2s who's skipping out on practice while looking for a new contract. So my point that I was getting at here is, Cortland Sutton's only got 1,000-yard season to his name. So he would be much easier to acquire, like draft capital wise, value wise, trade value wise, than Brandon Ayuk, right? Last season, 59 catches, 772 yards. If you watched the Denver Broncos last year, it was just super confusing. They had their moments, they had their bursts, but Russell Wilson and Jerry was not the guy in any way, shape, or form last season for Denver. So it kind of was Cortland Sutton, and he ended the season with 59 catches for 772 yards, and he scored 10 touchdowns. And once again, who was throwing him the football? Russell Wilson. Familiarity, comfort, you kind of get what I'm doing here. I don't need crazy at wide receiver 2. I don't need Brandon Ayuk. But I do think if you were to trade for Cortland Sutton, it would be much easier to acquire. And then you can still take your selection at pick 20. You can still get your offensive line in the 1st and 2nd round. And then in the 3rd round, you can take a hopeful, young gun wide receiver at the rookie at the wide receiver position. So I kind of love the idea of trading for Cortland Sutton, but I did just want to get it out there that Brandon Ayuk and the Pittsburgh Steelers are interested in Brandon Ayuk. So let me know your thoughts on Cortland Sutton to the Pittsburgh Steelers down below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you